I say this to my Republican colleagues who are defending the indefensible. There will come a day when Donald Trump is gone, but your dishonor will remain.
This isn't something I ask you guys to do often, but this is a video that I want you to share with your friends and family, especially if they are Trump supporters, because I will be removing my bias and laying out all of the facts. A no BS video explaining why more than 200 former Bush, McCain, and Romney staffers endorse Harris. On top of that, there's another article that says 24 former Trump allies and aides have turned against him, and the number says 24, but I think it's more than doubled since then. And what does it tell you when all of Donald Trump's closest allies, people who have been Republicans for their entire life, come out and say, hey, I cannot vote for Donald Trump. He does not represent the Republican Party. He doesn't represent America as a whole. This article, for example, says the alumni of 3 Republican presidential nominees sought to reiterate their opposition to Trump's 2020 re-election in an open letter. So Republicans, MAGA Republicans, are seriously going to sit here and try to convince me that George W. Bush is a fake Republican, Mitt Romney is a fake Republican, John McCain was a fake Republican, but people like RFK Jr., Mike Lindell, and Rudy Giuliani, that's the real Republican Party, apparently. More than 200 Republicans who worked for the former presidents George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, the late Senator John McCain, rest in peace, and Senator Mitt Romney declared their endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris's presidential campaign in an open letter released Monday. And this is a massive deal. These are lifelong Republicans, people who, imagine Mitt Romney in 2012 coming out and endorsing Obama. I guess that doesn't work because he was running against Obama, but these lifelong Republicans have come out and endorsed the mainstream Democratic nominee, and it's made even more awesome by the fact that VP Harris is badass, but also that she is a black woman. This is America, where we have Republicans like Mitt Romney endorsing a black woman like VP Harris, which is beautiful. The letter comes after several Republicans who are openly critical of former President Donald Trump delivered remarks at the DNC in Chicago last week. In their letter, which was first reported by USA Today, the former staff members noted that they had come out against Trump during the 2020 election cycle and that they, quote, jointly declare that we're voting for VP Harris and Governor Tim Walz this November. For example, former Vice President Dick Cheney came out against Donald Trump. Watch this.
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. He tried to steal the last election using lies and violence to keep himself in power after the voters had rejected him. He is a coward. A real man wouldn't lie to his supporters. He lost his election, and he lost big. I know it, he knows it, and deep down, I think most Republicans know it.
So listen, I disagree with Dick Cheney on just about everything, and even if MAGA Republicans that are watching disagree with Dick Cheney, that is fine, but what does it tell you when people like Dick Cheney, everybody that's worked for Dick Cheney and George W. Bush, come out and say, hey, I cannot vote Republican? I mean, this is a lifelong Republican. This is a man who bleeds red meat, who likes to hunt and shoot guns all the time, and he is probably voting for VP Kamala Harris. This also brings me back to this article, which I love to revisit. There is a long list of one-time allies and aides who have either turned against former President Donald Trump or whom he has turned against himself. No person in U.S. politics, certainly no recent president, has such an expansive list of high-profile allies turned enemies. And let's just run through this list because I think it's really, really powerful. Ask yourself this: why did his vice president, Mike Pence, turn against him and say, quote, the American people deserve to know that President Trump asked me to put him over my oath to the Constitution. Anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. MAGA Republicans, what is Mike Pence referring to here? Mike Pence is talking about Donald Trump asking him to subvert the will of the American people on January 6th. We also have his Attorney General, Bill Barr, who has since actually flipped, but he once said, quote, someone who engaged in that kind of bullying about a process that is fundamental to our system and to our self-government shouldn't be anywhere near the Oval Office. His first Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, quote, Donald Trump is the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the American people, does not even pretend to try. Instead, he tries to divide us. His second Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, I think he's unfit for office. He puts himself before country. His actions are all about him and not about the country. And then, of course, I believe he has integrity and character issues as well. And as we go down the list, it gets worse and worse. course, I mean, John Bolton said, "I believe foreign leaders think he is a laughing fool." John Kelly, a person that has nothing but contempt for our democratic institutions, our Constitution, and rule of law. There is nothing more that can be said. God help us. I mean, this one is powerful. This is something you say when a tornado is about to tear your house down. You pray and say, God help us. Quote, "Of course, we have plenty of honest ideological disagreements with VP Harris and Governor Walz. That's to be expected," wrote the Republicans who endorsed them. "The alternative, however, is simply untenable," and that is a very mature position to take. Of course, you can disagree with VP Harris or disagree with Governor Walz. I'm sure there are slight policy disagreements that I have with VP Harris. I don't quite know them yet, but I'm sure we disagree on some stuff. But oh my lord, VP Harris and Tim Walz are way, way better candidates than Donald Trump. I can't even state that enough. The group condemned Trump's policies and Project 2025, a proposed blueprint by the Heritage Foundation for a second Trump term. The Republicans argued that Trump's approach to foreign policy also poses threats to democratic movements abroad, and concluded their letter by imploring moderate Republicans and conservative independents to, quote, "take a brave stance once more, to vote for leaders that will strive for consensus, not chaos, and will work to unite, not divide. That will make our country and our children proud," by voting for Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. And I just have to say, that is very, very well said. That is one of my biggest concerns with Donald Trump as well. A second Donald Trump term, of course, would ruin our country, but the threats that it poses abroad to countries like Ukraine or Taiwan, I mean, the implications of Donald Trump emboldening authoritarian leaders like Vladimir Putin, like Xi Jinping, like Kim Jong-un would be absolutely awful. And imagine a reality where Donald Trump works to undermine NATO and these alliances that we've spent decades building, and at the same time, Vladimir Putin takes advantage of Trump and takes Ukraine. I mean, there is a reality where the entire global order falls under a second Trump term, not to be dramatic. Trump campaign spokesperson Stephen Chung, here we go with this guy again, said in a statement that the letter is, quote, "hilarious because nobody knows who these people are. They would rather see the country burn down than to see President Trump successfully return to the White House to make America great again." It's funny because he says that nobody knows who these people are, but many of the people that have spoken out against Donald Trump are people that Donald Trump appointed himself. So Stephen Chung is going to say that Donald Trump doesn't know who Mike Pence is, doesn't know who Bill Barr or James Mattis is. I mean, these are people that were integral to Donald Trump's cabinet, but of course now they say, oh, Trump doesn't know who they are. The Harris campaign did not immediately respond. McCain's former chief of staff, Mark Salter, and Olivia Troy, a former aide to VP Mike Pence, also signed the letter. Troy spoke out against Trump at the DNC last week, along with people like Adam Kinzinger, who gave amazing speeches. The group joins more than 24 Republicans, former governors, members of Congress, and Trump administration officials who are vocal critics of Trump, who pledged support for Harris's presidential campaign just this month. A similar group of anti-Trump Republicans, including several hundred former aides to Bush and McCain, endorsed Biden's 2020 election campaign. And I want to leave you with this thought, this line. The largest coalition in America is the anti-Trump coalition, comprised of center-right Republicans who care about our democracy, moderates who care about our democracy, of course, liberals, far-left people. I mean, almost everybody across the political spectrum hates Donald Trump, and that gives me some sort of hope heading into this election that the anti-Trump coalition can turn out in November and vote against Trump, vote for VP Harris, even if you are Liz Cheney. I'm sure Liz Cheney disagrees with Kamala Harris on a lot, but Liz Cheney loves democracy. I can confidently say that Liz Cheney is in favor of democracy, and I hope you guys can see that as well. If you guys enjoyed this video, all that I ask is that you leave a like, comment a blue heart, hit that subscribe button. Most importantly, have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.